Alright, so this is going to be video lesson number 32. We're going to specifically be talking about the scaled layers of the earth, and we're going to be talking about the physical layers. And what we mean by scale is we're about to do a model of Earth's layers. Clearly we are not able to use the real Earth's layers based on their size, so we have to scale that down, and when we say scale that down, we're going to use a specific measurement. So in your interactive notebook, on page 142, I'm going to kind of show you what we're going to make, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to make it. So here's our objective. This is what we're looking to make right here. What we are looking at is we have the crust, which has continental crust and oceanic crust, and then we have our mantle, which has certain specific physical properties, like it's made of iron and magnesium, and it has plasticity, which means it's solid rock, but it slowly moves over time. We have our outer core, which is down here, and it's going to be made of iron, nickel. It is molten, which means that it is liquid. And then, of course, we have the inner core, which is made of iron, nickel, and it is a solid. Now, notice over here we have some information about thickness and density, and over here we're just going to show the different layers. So this is what we're trying to make, and let's go ahead and get started. So on page 142, I'm going to try to keep this zoomed in to about right there. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and label out your blue lines. Okay, that's going to help us because our scale today is going to be written down here in our bottom left. So our scale is one blue line equals about 300 kilometers. All right, so that is our scale. One blue line equals about 300 kilometers. I'll zoom in on that so you guys can see that a little bit better. But this is how we're going to do this today. So looking at page 142, the first thing that you're going to do is put dots on the red lines on both sides. All right, and then you go down to the bottom, and you're going to notice that those red lines are about 13 centimeters apart. Well, we want the middle of that, so we're going to go to 7.5, and we're going to put a dot. So notice that dot is on 7.5 right down there at the very bottom. Okay, so you'll want your dot on 7.5, and then what you want to do from there is you're going to make a triangle. All right, now this triangle, what this triangle is there for us to do is to put down the correct layers of the earth and their thicknesses and what they're made of using this scale right here. Now, notice across the top I did not put a straight line because we're going to try to show that that first layer of earth, the crust, there's some crust that is above and below. We have Himalayan mountains ranges, we have deep oceanic trenches, we have all these things that we have to account for. So I'm just going to kind of draw underneath. It's going to be a little bit of an ocean, and we have a mountaintop there, and then I'm going to come back down, maybe a deep oceanic trench there, and we're going to come back across. All right, and so anything that's above that blue line is going to be considered a mountain, and then anything that is below that blue line in that first section there is going to be considered oceanic crust or really thick continental crust. So how we're going to do that is you're going to need some matte pencils. You're going to need these colors today. I've provided some up front. You're going to need orange, yellow, green, blue, red. All right, so what we're going to do first is we're just going to color in our oceans. Again, I'm going to move at a pretty fast rate. You guys can always slow this down or come back and watch it more than once. And then I have to show that we have some continental crust. So here's my continental crust. Now when I get underneath the ocean, that's obviously called oceanic crust. And then when I get back over here, we have some thick continental crust. And then we'll go all the way to the edge of our pizza slice there. So the first thing that we want to be able to do is look and see what we've created. We've created continental crust. Now there's two types of continental crust. There's oceanic and there's continental crust. So the first thing that we want to be able to do is look at our scale. Now we want to talk about density and labeling this. So here's our crust. So go ahead and label that. And this area right here has a specific name, and that is our lithosphere. So we're going to go ahead and write that in. These are things that we've already talked about in class. The lithosphere is, of course, the bottom of the crust and the very, very top part of the mantle. Over here, what we're going to write is the density. So the density of continental crust and oceanic crust, it ranges from about 2.7 to 3 grams per centimeter cubed, and it's about 5 to 200 kilometers thick based on where you are located. Now I know that's a little bit difficult to read right there, so I'm going to zoom in on that for just a second. So grams per centimeter cubed and 5 to 10 kilometers thick. So this first area, we are talking about the crust, and there's two types of crust. What are the two types of crust? Continental crust and oceanic crust. So the next part is we are going to work on the layer that is underneath the crust, and that's called the mantle. So for the mantle, we're going to have to go down approximately 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blue lines. So we'll come back to our drawing and we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So from here to here, we want to go ahead and put a straight line. And what we just created in this section here is our mantle. Alright, so what we want to do is label that. And we will put mantle right here. And the upper part of the mantle is called the asthenosphere. So we want to label that out. ASTHENOSPHERE. Don't forget, sphere stands for like a circle, like a round ball. So asthenosphere, mesosphere, lithosphere, of course, round ball like a sphere. So now what we want to do is come back and we're going to quickly shade this yellow. Now I'm going to move very quickly just to show you guys where you should be shading yellow, of course, inside. And then we're going to come back here and we're going to label this with the different types of elements that are found here. And based on our notes, I'm going to flip back over here and show you on the notes from today. It's oxygen, silicone, and aluminum in the crust. When we get down into the mantle is going to contain some iron and some magnesium. So we're going to put Fe, of course that's iron, and then Mg. Oh, there's our morning bell, no big deal. Okay, and a physical property of this layer is that it has some plasticity, and what that means is it is a solid, but it moves very slowly like a liquid. And our density is going to be 3.3 to 5.7 grams per centimeter cubed, and it's about 2,900 kilometers thick. All right, so this is our excuse me, this is our mantle. All right, so we're going to go ahead and keep on moving here to our next layer. What we want to see in our next layer is our outer core. We're looking at iron nickel, and it's molten, which means that it's liquid, and the density is going to be very high, and it's about 2,200 kilometers thick. So using this model right here, we're going to have to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blue lines. So let's go ahead and go down 8 blue lines. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blue lines, and we can make our line straight across here. All right, now this layer, we're going to label it over here. It's called the outer core. We're going to put some information inside of that. We're looking at some iron and some nickel. And this layer is molten, which means that it is a liquid. Our density is going to range between 9.9 to 12.2 grams per centimeter cubed, and it is about 2,250 kilometers thick. Now for this layer, we are showing an increase in temperature with our colors. I'm just going to shade the outside layer of this, and this is going to be orange. I'm going to come back in here in a little bit and shade that a whole lot nicer so it looks more presentable. All right, and our last layer that we're going to talk about is the very center of the Earth, which is our inner core. It's the hottest layer of Earth. It is the densest, most dense layer of Earth, and it has some iron and nickel located inside of there. So let's go ahead and see. We're going to need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 blue lines. So it should finish out with 1, 2, 3, 4 blue lines, which is excellent. So we have some information here. This is our inner core. I'm going to put a little arrow right here. That way there's no confusion between the inner and the outer cores. And inside of that we have iron and nickel. Now I'm only going to put this symbol inside of there since we already know what those are. And I'm going to put solid because this layer is a solid. And then I'm going to take my red matte pencil. I'm going to work my way around. Again, I'm going to come back here shortly. I'm going to make this look a whole lot nicer. Well, let's talk about the density. It's 12.6 to 13 grams per centimeter cubed, and it's about 1,250 kilometers thick. Okay, so I know this was very fast, but you will have some time today to take care of this. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so you guys can see this. But what we're looking at here is our scaled layers of the Earth. We're talking about our physical layers, so things that you need to know from this. You need to know there is a crust, a mantle, inner core, and outer core. But more importantly, the lithosphere is the very top of our mantle. It's where our tectonic plates are. And then the asthenosphere is the very top part that the tectonic plates actually slide around on. The other part you need to make sure that you're clear on is that the mantle is made of iron and magnesium. Your outer core is made of iron and nickel, and it is molten. And your inner core is made of iron and nickel, and it is a solid. Also make sure you're aware of the densities. So notice the densities get considerably higher as you work your way into the center of Earth. So we will come back today during class and we will ask a few questions over this. This was, again, video lesson number 32, which is scaled layers of the Earth.